This video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com and GatheringMagic.com, your place to explore the game.
Hi, I'm Aaron, aka Uncle Landdrops from the General Zone and now Commander Cast. And today on CMDR decks, we're looking at my favorite deck led by my favorite creature in mono red, Heartless Hidetsugu. So the story of how I built this deck is pretty interesting. About 2.5 years ago, I moved into a new play group where it was a lot more multiplayer environment, and we were playing in a local game store for about 3 to 4 hours each session, which meant that we weren't able to get in the kind of 1v1, 3 or 4 hour one game that I was used to getting, from my old play group. And at the same time, I was actually working on, I had just begun the General Zone. And I hadn't really played a whole lot of mono red, and I really wanted to see firsthand, how I could make this color work. And so I began testing decks, and the most successful card in all those tests was Heartless Hidetsugu. I felt that this was the key to winning a lot of games, and so I started to build a strategy around it, where I would get HH out, I'd get him with haste, and then I would start to tap so that I could get his ability off as many times as I could so that I could get burn spells and make them relevant. What I realized was that this really catered to the redundant haste outlets, the mana rocks, and the burn spells really catered to a sort of redundancy that was really nice in conjunction with the wheel effects and things that mono red was already doing. So over the years, I've taken things in and taken things out, but the gist of the deck is the same. We get him out, we get him with haste, and then we try to find a way to win. Because he affects the bottom line, it really makes for a really excellent way to strategize and to overall just kind of manage the game. And even if we do lose, we get to go out knowing that we've done a lot of damage. So these are the reasons that I'm continuing to play Heartless Hidetsugu to this day, and why I still have a lot of fun with this deck. I got 27 Full Art Zendikar mountains. I like to play a lot of mountains, specifically for Valakut. But in general, I just play a lot of basics in my decks. I like the aesthetic a lot. Got a Myriad Landscape, Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic. Again, these are for sort of the fixing. We play 39 lands and 27 of them are basic, so why not? Got some more terrain generator. Temple of False God, a little bit of acceleration for HH. Flamekin Village. I still haven't drawn this card in a game yet. Hopefully it'll be really good in opening hand, but if it's not, then it's something that I can discard. No big deal. Forgotten Cave, Smoldering Crater, just trying to shore up some red's deficiencies in card draw. Radiant Fountain, a little bit of life gain. It's a lot better when we draw it later on in the game versus early on in the game, and that's just because of his ability and the way that he kind of magnifies damage later on in the game. And diminishes it early on. Kher Keep, get some tokens to block. We've got a Valakut, Mikokoro, the Center of the Sea, one of my favorites, and one of my favorite lands in general, and just a really nice way to shore up that card draw weakness. Glacial Chasm is probably the best land in the deck. Got a few drawbacks. We're paying some life on cumulative upkeep triggers. We sack a land when it comes into play. And our creatures can't attack, which is something weird for red, but we do get to prevent all of the HH damage, which is where the majority of our damage is going to be done anyway. So it's a small sacrifice, a few more extra sacrifices, but ultimately it contributes to a board state where we get to really go downhill at our opponents with our life total. And it's one of the cool things about Glacial Chasm is it actually spurned a resurgence of Strip Mine in my metagame. So if you guys are having problems where you think land destruction is taboo or something like that, just try to get a Glacial Chasm or two into a couple of decks that might want it or need it, some slower decks, and your opponents will really start to bring the land destruction. Loxodon Warhammer and Basilisk Collar. These cards are really similar to the Glacial Chasm effect. When we equip them to HH, if we do get to do that, it's a little bit slower of a system, but if we get to do that, then this is just another great way to go downhill at our opponents, and then we can start to attack with these things and start to gain some more life as well. expedition map. You've seen my expedition map package a little bit. We really like to go get Glacial Chasm most of the time if we can. I've actually since changed that up a little bit because people started bringing a lot of strip mine. So most of the time I'm just going to grab Mikokoro or Valakut. But on the occasion that I do want it, I do go get Glacial Chasm with this too. So we've got some mana ramp. Seething Song is something that's a little bit interesting, a little bit different than I think people would expect. One of the cool things about this card is that, you know, I know people don't like it, you know, Dark Ritual and things like that, but really this card compares favorably with the mana rocks in the deck, the Grim Monoliths and the Basalt Monoliths and stuff that doesn't untap. Because even though that those are permanents, it's still sort of a tempo-based thing. We really want to get HH out with haste and swinging fast. So if I can go turn 2 Lightning Greaves, turn 3 Seething Song into HH, equip, we're pretty much ensured that we're going to get the 2 blasts off that we need to get for the to get everybody down to 10 life, like our game plan is. So, and that's, you know, as early as turn 3. So this is actually a really good card in this deck, contrary to what you might think. Pilgrim's Eye, just a nice little pet card that I play. It's I don't really know. It's just cute. It's a kind of a running joke in our metagame, and I wrote about it on the blog back when I first started again. That I really just think that half of a Solemn Simulacrum is still as good as a Solemn Simulacrum sometimes. And again, that big amount of basic land that I play, this really just helps me to get some card advantage in red. Burnished Hart. One of the things about this card that's interesting is that we're only really trying to sacrifice this if to force blocks. So if somebody starts to attack us, we actually are going to wait until we can block and then do that. Because of how low our creature count is, we really need these cards to kind of go the miles that they need to go. So we got a Grim Monolith, Unstable Obelisk. I actually got a chance to use the Destroy Target permanent in a game recently. So really good, really effective. We were in top deck mode, and this was the thing I needed. So Soul Ring, again, some more ramp. Armillary Sphere. This is a really good card to get all your basics out that you need. Solemn Simulacrum, again, one of my favorite cards in the entire game, and you know, just in here. Basalt Monolith, some Mind Stone so we can fortify our card draw. Pristine Talisman. The life gain on this is so underrated. There's a really weird dynamic that happens with HH where you actually have even and odd life totals, and the trick is that you want to be on an odd life total pretty much every time, because it means that you're going to be able to gain life. So that's there's a sort of a tricky dynamic with that, but the one life is not to be underrated. It's still really very good. Generator Servant is another sweet little tempo-based mana ramp thing. This is another kind of like Seething Song-esque thing. It's also a great creature to have just in case we, you know, later on in the game we need a chump blocker, or you know, we really want to get a Sun or an Inferno Titan out, and we get, you know, swing for 6 damage, and then we get 2 lightning bolt triggers off of it. So really nice little card that's come in handy quite a bit. Ye Olde Lightning Greaves, Swiftfoot Boots, Hammer Purphoros. Really just straight up replaced Fervor in this deck. The amount of land I play, it also fit really nicely in, so it was just kind of a natural inclusion that this card would come in. Ashling's Prerogative is my favorite and funniest haste outlet. It comes into play, you choose odd or even, and it makes a note that 0 is even, so tokens are going to be even. We're always going to choose odd on this, so each creature with converted mana cost of the chosen value, odd, has haste, which means that we get to play HH with haste, and then each creature without it comes into play tapped. So this is a really nice way to shut down Titans in this deck, and it just really supported design overall, and I laugh every time I play it, because I think it's the funniest thing and the goofiest card I could be playing. Lightning Mauler. This is another great little little haste outlet. Another chump blocker that we can again use, you know, a la Generator Servant. So, you know, just another great little utility multi-use card in our deck. 1,000-Year Elixir, probably the best haste outlet in our deck. We're going to be, because it doesn't give anything else haste other than the things that have tap abilities. So this is going to help us generate a lot of triggers with HH. And if we can get our 2 triggers off, the investment on these cards is very small. because then we've got all the damage and all the bottom line affected that we needed. So now we can just try to find big threats to help us end the game. Ring of Valkut, another weird haste outlet. So now we've got our card advantage and library manipulation stuff. Red has a lot of top deck mode-ness to it, and I tried to emulate the support for that in this deck so that we could just find the answers that we need at the times that we need. So this is my only copy of Sensei's Divining Top, and I'm really proud to have the only one of its kind in my stuff in here. I generally don't like to play a whole lot of multiples of cards in general, so this is the right deck, the right place, etc. Darksteel Pendant, just another weird little support card. Again, having the redundancy will lend itself to part of my strategy that you'll see in a few minutes. Crystal Ball, just another nice little copy, so we have all of those. Reforge the Soul, as obvious with Crystal Ball and all that stuff. The Miracle is really nice. This is a little proxy Wheel of Fortune. I'm actually getting a new one, a real one, pretty soon. Credit Voucher. This is one of my little pet cards that I like to play in decks. It's a 2-cost artifact. You pay 2, you tap, you sack Credit Voucher, you shuffle any number of cards in your hand in your library, and then draw that many cards. So the idea with this is that you want to play it early on, and you want to just continue to net cards. And if you're not netting the right ones, then you can go ahead and replace them. I've done Credit Vouchers for 3. I've done Credit Vouchers for 4. I've done them for my whole hand when I just don't, I want to get a shuffle into my deck. It's just a really great little functioning card in here. It's a little bit better in my Glacial the Trader deck, but it's just been a really great support card here when I can get an extra shuffle. If I cast a Wheel of Fortune and I don't like what I got, I can ship that 7 back and get a whole new set. So Faithless Looting, again, the card disadvantage, people like, oh, we have to sift through our library. Well, that's what Red really wants to do anyway. We want to find the little combo pieces so that we can effectively end the game and do that stuff. So these little tempo things like this and Tormenting Voice, they aren't really as bad as people think. Browbeat is almost always going to be target player draws 3 cards, so we're almost always going to net 3 off of this 2 and a red, which is really nice in this deck. Nobody wants to pay 5 life, especially when I get them below 10. When I get them to 10 or below, nobody's going to do that. Temple Bell, just another nice little card thing. Rummaging Goblin, we got some rummaging effects in here. Deal Broker, one of the nicest surprises I found like 2 or 3 months after, no, more than that, like 5 months maybe after Conspiracy. I didn't realize because of all this nonsense here, draft Deal Broker, face up, blah, 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 blah. I don't really care about that. All I care about is this draw a card, then discard a card. This is a Merfolk Looter, folks. I bought 8 of this card, and I have not looked back. I love Deal Broker. And if you love Merfolk Looter and you play it, this is a really great card to have. And again, in red, we're not really, as you've seen, there's a lot of redundancy. We're not really concerned with the amount of stuff that we're going to have to pitch in this deck because of that. So these rummaging effects, like with Mad Prophet, are really going to be nice. Humble Defector, this is a new card I just got, just slotted in here. We'll see how it works out. I'm anxious to see. I think at the right time it's going to be good. At the wrong time it's going to be pretty bad. So we're just going to have to see what happens here. Firewing Phoenix, I mentioned that we have some cards that we can just straight up pitch some of the redundancy, like if we draw into another Ring of Valkut after we have Hammer Purphoros and Lightning Greaves out. This is like that. Firewing Phoenix is a little bit more of that redundancy, but it's also something that we can go get back from our graveyard. So really nice little inclusion here. Skargan Firebird, again, another way to do that, and with HH's damage, we can almost always ensure that we're going to be able to get Firebird back. Koldatha Phoenix, again, we play a lot of artifacts, as you've seen, so I can set it up and play around that Metalcraft ability. Flamewake Phoenix, another new one. This is a little weird and a little harder to justify, considering that it has to come back into play tapped and attacking, because it has to attack each turn if able. But the cool thing is that HH is a 4-power guy, so he's almost always going to set off that ferocious trigger. So even getting a Phoenix back for 1 turn that we have to attack, and maybe they don't block, and then we can leave it up. Or no, we can't. We have to attack with it. But regardless, I'm going to try it out. We'll see if it works. Maybe it won't. Squee, Goblin Nabob. So this is again another card that we can pitch, and this is something that comes back, so we can continue to use it with our rummaging effects. Chaos Warp, really nice little value generator. It's our only removal, so there's that. We do have burn spells. I mean, these are Red Sun Zenith, really nice to have early on, so we can bop a utility dude and then get it back later. Lightning Bolt. I found out I needed this card. I actually, at the beginning of the deck, I actually was taking it in and picking it out, and taking it in, taking it out. Finally, I got to a game where I needed it in a top deck mode situation, and I didn't have it. And I was just like, well, lesson learned. So, play your Lightning Bolts, folks. So, Fireball. Just another nice card. I like to have the option of dividing the damage. So, this card, even though it's pretty bad, it's still kind of good in some ways. Comet Storm is just a lot better than Fireball, but you know, it's an instant. It actually divides the damage differently, so we can go X is 4, multi-kicker 2, so we can do 2 damage to 4, or 4 damage to 2 players, and that's just a lot better than the way the Fireball does things. Starstorm, I needed something that could simulate a Wrath, be low on curve, and then potentially be another card later. Starstorm was just the perfect fit, so you know, it's in here now. Devil's Play, one of the best, or actually probably the best burn spell that I play in here. Again, something I can pitch, something I can use to deal damage later. A lot of times I'm playing multiplayer, so 2 to 3 players left in the game is pretty common, and 2 to 3 opponents anyway. And so being able to kill 2 opponents on consecutive turns and put the pressure on is really nice, because if they don't draw into an answer, then they know they're going to lose. Fortune Thief. For a while, I actually had a morph theme in this deck where I was playing a bunch of other morphs, even Zoetic Cavern and some nonsense, and this was the best card in the deck. Just being able to put it down and people being like, "Oh, that's Fortune Thief," even if you know, it doesn't matter, because I can flip it up, declare no blocks, and then I'm only going to be at 1, and then I'll be able to, you know, try to win the game next turn. So putting ourselves in the opportunity opportunity to win is really great. And this is a nice little trick that people will now officially expect because it's here on CMDR decks. Viashino Heretic. This is a card I put in here for some utility. It's a nice little 1/3. I really like the idea that it deals damage to other people's artifacts and stuff, particularly people who have indestructible stuff like Darksteel Ingot. It's just a really nice little utility piece, and again, it works on that damage theme that I have with HH. Vandal Blast. Vandal Blast is a really nice little card. I tend to, I actually decided that, you know, this is another lesson learned card where I was playing a game and I just needed a lot of artifact removal and I didn't have it. So it's in here now, and if I don't need it, then, you know, I can pitch it. We have quite a few Planeswalkers in here. We have this Koth of the Hammer. People are kind of surprised about the Planeswalker amount. I actually just took out a couple of them recently, but the ones that are still in here are really good, and one of the reasons that Planeswalkers are in here is because they actually gain you life. When people choose to attack those instead of you, they are banking on the idea that they will always be able to kill you, and the thing about this HH deck is that they really should be attacking you, kind of regardless, and be letting the Planeswalkers do their thing. So it's really nice just to have a way to, again, mess with people's heads, and Planeswalkers do that. Chandra Blaze, obviously, I think it's pretty common knowledge now that she's the best red walker. You can use +1 or -2 very quickly, and they're really, really disruptive, and she's got a really good immediate impact on the board. Soul Chandelar. This has been one of the all-stars that I put in here recently. So I fit it in here after I got, you know, my M15 stuff, and I was like, well, you know, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but that activated ability has been a lot more powerful than I expected. The first strike allows us to eat Titans for days, which is just the filthiest thing, and avoid Death Touch at the same time. Really, really underrated Planeswalker with some really, you know, pretty mysterious and neat looking art too. I really do admire the artwork here, and I just generally like the card. And in emergency situations, if I have to pitch it, I've still got at least one activation of her ability. So Inferno Titan, obviously, we're going to be playing, you know, Inferno beats. Impact Resonance. Resonance, a new one. Really cool with HH's ability. So we hit the table for 20 or for 10 life each. And, if that's multiple players, that stacks. So we have a bunch of stuff to do. And then we can just start pinging everything. So this can almost be like a 2-mana Wrath. And so I really, really like it. Duretti. So again, more Planeswalkers. This is one that I think people are just immediately trying to kill. I know I am. When I see people play it as their commander, I'm just like, well, you're dead. Die, Duretti. Here, it's actually no exception. Even in the deck, it's still pretty powerful. That ability to, even repeat a loot, Faithless Looting. I don't actually care about the other two abilities, honestly. I don't have a whole lot of stuff that's going to be worth it. Maybe I want another Solemn Simulacrum at some point, but for the -2. But most of the time, we're just going to be pitching stuff to draw into our answers, and that's really all Duretti's doing in this deck. So our last two cards, we've got Chandra Powermaster. Again, just another nice way to draw an extra card. We're using the 0 ability quite a bit, and to be honest, I was surprised at how much use I get out of this 0 ability. People let me seem to have this more than I really expected. So just a really nice little card. And then our last card is Thundermaw Hellkite, which is our straight up fireball for damage, or lightning axe, or lava axe, I'm sorry. We're just basically, a lot of times if we can get 3 blasts off and a Thundermaw Hellkite, we are killing one person at least. And then probably untapping and doing it again. It's just that much pressure. It's a really great card, and I didn't expect. I had a proxy in here for the longest time. Didn't know if I was going to keep this card because it was expensive in standard, and ultimately decided that it needed to be here, and that is the deck. HH and I would like to thank you guys a lot for watching today's installment of CMDR Decks. As always, please favorite and subscribe. You can find us at the General Zone, at Commander Cast, or wherever they're setting their life totals to 40. Pass the turn.